denominators called like denominators, add the numerators, and write the sum over the denominator. So if I have A over C plus B over C, they have the same denominators. So what do? I add the numerators, A plus B, and then I put it over C. The harder part of this would be unlike denominators, which we'll get to next week. The denominators are the same. We're going to add the numerators. So what we're doing is we're doing 5 plus 9. There's the numerator, and we're putting it over 12. Again, these are your notes. So you want to make sure that you copy down that step. That way when you look back and you ask me for help on your homework, we'll look at this. And then you just add the numerators. 9 plus 5 is 14 divided by 12. Do I ever leave my answer like this? What's wrong with it? It's not simplified. So even if the directions don't say to simplify, you still have to simplify. What is the greatest common factor for 14 and 12? 2. They're both even. Cut them in half, and we get 7, 6. All right, here we go. So that it's as easy as that. You just add the numerators and put it over the denominator. Let's look at the next one, because now we're seeing integers and fractions mixed together here. Same thing. It says 3 plus negative 7. And you're putting it over the same denominator. 3 plus negative 7. Are we adding the same sign or different signs? What are the signs that we're adding? What are the same signs? I'm just looking at the numerator. 3 plus negative 7. Here's the adding symbol. We're adding. Are we adding the same sign or different signs? We have a positive 3 and a negative 7. So you can still look back at these rules right here. We are adding different signs. What does it say to do? We subtract and take the sign from the larger number. That's why this rule should be first in your notes, so you can flip back and be reminded of your integers. So we are adding different signs. It says to subtract. 7 minus 3 is 4, and then take the sign from the larger number. Is it positive 4 or negative 4? Negative 4, and we still have divided by 8. And we simplify. What's the GCF for 4 and 8? What is that? 4. 2 works, but if I do 2, that means I have to reduce again because it won't be in the lowest term. You're doing 4. This is something I saw in the homework. I'm not dividing by negative 4. I'm only dividing by 4. So negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1, but 8 divided by 4 is 2. When you see the negative sign there, you're not using that as part of the GCF. So here we get negative 1/2. All right, so that's what happens when you just have a fraction. What's going to happen when we have mixed numbers? On example 3, it says 1 2/9 plus 3 4/9. Well, you're going to add the whole numbers and the fractions separately. So I like to set mine up like this. 1 2/9 plus 3, notice how I'm putting the 3 underneath the whole number, 3 4/9. I like to add vertically once I get into mixed numbers. When it's just fractions, I don't mind that they're going horizontally, not a big deal. But once you start to get into mixed numbers, I like to see the whole numbers and I like to see the fraction column. And so we're going to add the numerators. What's 2 plus 4? 6, and we keep the denominator. Am I done? Is that it, Jordan? Now what? The whole number. That's right. I got to add the whole number now. I added the fraction. Now I got to add the whole number. 1 plus 3 is 4. Is this my final answer, Eugene?
No.
What's wrong with it? Exactly. What is the greatest common factor for 6 and 9? What is it, Evan? 3 works. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And so my final answer would be 4 2/3. I'm going to set it up as negative 4 9/14. And then it's a positive 3 5/14. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the whole numbers. I see a negative 4 and a positive 3. Are we adding the same sign or different signs? We're adding different signs. This is going to be important because it's a mix of integers and fractions. We're adding different signs. We have that the 4 is negative and the 3 is positive. So what do we do when it's different signs? Exactly. It's different signs. Different signs. We have a -4 and a +3. That means to subtract. Different signs means to subtract. So we're actually subtracting these. It says 9. Let's start with the fraction column. So first thing I had to figure out is whether or not I was adding these or subtracting these. That was the issue to start with. And so I looked at my whole numbers and I saw that they were different signs. And I know that when I'm adding different signs, I need to subtract them. So it's 9/14 minus 5/14. What's 9 minus 5? 4. And then we keep the same denominator. And then I look at my whole numbers, -4 and +3. What do we get for -4 and +3? They're different signs, so we subtract. Are we going to get a +1 or a -1? -1. And then I just need to check my answer to make sure it's reduced. I see that 4 and 14 are both even, so I'm going to cut them in half. So we get -1 and 2/7. This is why I'm not going to unlike denominators this week. I really want to make sure that you're not bogged down with finding denominators and looking at integer signs. So this is as far as we're going this week. We're going to practice doing these fractions. Multiply, multiply, divide, and then use like denominators this week. So let's look at the homework. Let's look at, that's one of the ones that I was going to go to. Okay, number 6. I'm looking at them. Are they the same sign or different signs? We're adding the same sign, -6 and -8. We are adding the same sign. Well, what's the rule for adding the same sign? So go back to your integer rule. Look at your integer rules. What is the rule for adding the same sign? Add them up and keep the same sign. So you're going to add them up and keep the same sign. So let's add our fractions. How much is 7/12 plus 11/12? We're adding it up. 7/12 plus 11/12. Well, 7 plus 11 is 18. We know that we keep the same denominator. And then we have to add 6 and 8. $14. Is it positive or -14? Okay. So we added them up. You can put same sign. That means to add. When you look back, you're trying to take a quiz or a test and get it figured out. Add them up. So what do you think about this problem? You see anything that's going on here? You can simplify. Nevaeh, did you say something else? Exactly. There's 2 things going on here. 1, 18/12 is definitely even, so I know it can be reduced. Number 2, it's an improper fraction, which means there is some whole numbers in there. Maybe there's only 1. Let's reduce it first, and then we'll think about the whole number that's in there. What is the greatest common factor for 18 and 12? Because I don't want to keep dividing it. I will if I have to. 6. Very good. So I'm going to divide both of these by 6. So I'm going to divide 6, and I get -14. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Now I would like to change. Now you have to. We haven't had to do this the whole time, but now we do have to change this improper fraction back into a mixed number. So how much is 3/2 as a mixed number? I want you to try to change it back. We haven't talked about changing them back. So I want you to try it. How can I change 3/2 into a mixed number? It says 3 divided by 2. You can go off to the side and do a basic division problem. 3 divided by 2. I'm not trying to change it to a decimal. I'm just trying to change it into a mixed number. So I'm not going to put a decimal in. I'm just going to divide it as much as I can. How many times does 2 go into 3? Goes in once. So there's one whole one in there. 1 times 2 is 2. And when I subtract, I get a remainder of 1. But I need to figure out how I'm supposed to write my final answer right now. How do I write my final answer for something like this? It's 1 whole 1. What's the fractional part? You take your 1, your remainder,
And you put it over the divisor.
so it's going to be 1 over 2. It should still have the same denominator as when it was a mixed number. And you can test it. Change it back to an improper fraction in your head. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3/2. You can check your work. So that's how you changed an improper fraction back to a mixed number. So what I have here then is I have a negative 14, and I also have another whole one that I need to add to that. So I wonder what that's going to be. We have to combine this together. I have to add a whole one to my negative 14. That's what you would think, right? But you're adding it to it. So if you just had 14 and you added one whole one to it, it would be 15, right? So it should be negative 15 and a half. So really, you're adding that negative